Okay, hey guys, we are going to study quadrilaterals this week. So quadrilaterals are polygons with four sides. So you can see we have a hierarchy over here on the left, showing you that everything starts here with the quadrilateral, and then everything is kind of under that umbrella. So a kite is a quadrilateral, and that kite has two pairs of congruent adjacent sides, and the opposite sides are not congruent. So meaning, if you take a look at that kite, these two sides here at the top of the shape are congruent, meaning they're the same measure, and they're adjacent, meaning they're next to each other. And then the bottom two sides here are also congruent. That's why you have those slash marks indicating that they're the same measure. They're adjacent, meaning they're next to each other, so they're the same size as well. But the opposite sides are not congruent. So there's your kite. Then we have the trapezoid. The arrow there indicating that these two sides here are parallel to each other. So they have one pair of parallel sides, and then you have your other two sides there to make it the four-sided shaped quadrilateral. You have a parallelogram here in the middle. So the parallelogram shows it's a quadrilateral with opposite sides that are parallel and congruent. So parallel going this way and congruent, and then these sides running this way are also parallel and congruent. So there's your parallelogram. Then we have a rhombus. So a rhombus is a parallelogram with four congruent sides. So all the sides are the same size, but the angles are not right angles, so it's not a square. So I always used to say when I taught 5th grade that a rhombus is like a square that got hit by a bus. It kind of got squished over. So it has four sides that are equal, but it doesn't have those four right angles. Then we have the rectangle here. So opposite sides of your rectangle are parallel, right? And they're congruent. And same here, parallel and congruent, and we have four right angles. This is our isosceles trapezoid. So an isosceles trapezoid is a trapezoid with exactly one pair of parallel sides and one pair of congruent sides. So if you look, these sides here are parallel. However, these sides are congruent, meaning they have the same measure. And then finally at the bottom, we have a square. So that's a parallelogram. So these sides are equal and parallel. These sides are equal and parallel, opposite of each other, and they're all congruent to each other, and four right angles for the square. Okay? So those are all the different shape types. Whoops, I meant to hit the eraser on that we have, and we'll have notes for that for you when you get back too. Okay? So here's just some other examples to classify. So here we have a square, and that's definitely seen by the four right angles. You can also see that by the congruent marks on each side, meaning that they're all the same shape. This is a kite, and you can tell that because we have this side and this side with the two congruent measures, and then this one and this one that are both congruent, and they're adjacent, so the adjacent congruent sides. The rhombus, so you can see that these are congruent and they're the same measure, so we have the four congruent sides. Trapezoid, you can see the little arrows indicating parallel, so opposite sides are parallel, and then you have the two congruent, so this could actually also be an isosceles trapezoid if we wanted to get more specific. And then we have rectangle, opposite congruent sides that are parallel, opposite congruent, and four right angles. So we're going to do a lot of solving for the missing angle measure like we did with the triangles, but with the quadrilaterals, you have to remember that you are going to be, all of your angles when added up measure 360 degrees. And I put on here to remember to use the equation to solve. So like I talked about with my class with the triangle and the angle quiz like we just took, if you set everything up as an equation, you're going to solve it the same way every single time, and that goes for solving for the missing angle in a triangle or solving for the missing angle in a supplementary angle. you know, if you solve it the same way every time, you really can't go wrong, and it's going to lead into, you know, solving for the height in a volume problem, or, you know, and so on. So just remember to set it up as an equation. So here's an example, A. So we have here, I don't quite know if this is trapezoid because this doesn't really look parallel to me, but it's definitely quadrilateral. So we have quadrilateral here. So I know this is equal to 360 degrees. And so that equation is going to be 360 is equal to 115 plus 70 plus 75 plus x. So I'm going to combine my like terms on this side. So I'll take my 115 plus 70 plus 75 in my calculator. And I get 260 plus x. I'm going to subtract 260 from both sides. So I get x is equal to 100. So then I would just check that, and I would say 115 plus 100 plus 75 plus 70. Does it equal 360? It does. So I know I'm correct. Okay, I'm going to leave B. Well, I guess I'm going to leave B for you to solve in this Ed puzzle. So if you could please find the measure of B there, that would be great. And find the measure of C. Now for this one, I would like you to identify the shape, and you should be able to identify the shape as a parallelogram. And then solve for the missing angle. So if you look at this, you should be able to know that this angle and this one would have to be the same. Therefore, this one and this one would have to be the same, right? So then you should be able to identify what x is equal to in this problem. So if you could try to solve that one, I'll set this one up for you. So this would be 360 is equal to 120 plus 120 plus 6x plus 6x. So that would be 360 equals 240 plus 12x, which is going to be, now I'm going to subtract 240 from both sides. So I'm going to get 120 is equal to 12x. I'll have to divide by 12 on both sides, and I will get 10. X is equal to 10. Okay? And again, this is a parallelogram. Okay, here's one. I want you to solve for x. Okay, so here we have a shape. It's a quadrilateral. If you could please try to solve for x on this one, it should be pretty easy to set that equation up. Remember, it needs to be equal to 360 degrees. Here, we would like you to identify this shape, so please identify that. Please identify this shape and solve for z. Again, please identify this shape and solve for x.